Welcome to Disney Journey. I'm Jim Shull, and in the 3 decades plus that I worked at a Disney Imagineer, I led a lot of creative teams on many projects. One that's very close to my heart is one that's been in the news recently. And of course, I'm talking about RocknRoller Coaster. It's going from a ride that stars Aerosmith to one that's going to be starring the Muppets. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's get started.
We'll start by walking into G-Force Records, right through this gate.
The type of change that's being proposed and we're going to get probably should have happened anyway. When I designed RocknRoller Coaster starring Aerosmith, I never expected Aerosmith to be there as long as they have. They're a great band. I love to spend time with Joe Perry and Steven Tyler and the rest of the band. But let's face it, bands are classic, but they do have a sell-by date. Aerosmith is not passe. They'll always be classic, but they are of their time. And the reality is, after these many decades, Disney would want to change the projection, change the lighting, change the sound, change the control systems. So a lot of the things that we're going to get should have happened anyway.
And that is because you have this issue of maintenance. When you build something in a Disney park, you got to take care of it. RocknRoller Coaster has been there for several decades. And over the decades, there's been a lot of wear and tear, starting with the Plaza. There, thousands of people have walked across the bronze plaques that are inlaid into the Plaza concrete. One thing I would say is they really need to restore them to their original pristine condition. Not like this, not like they are today. Just a little bit of polish and elbow grease will take care of it. The big red guitar that's the icon of RocknRoller Coaster will also get some love, starting with a little bit of paint and a new marquee. The old Aerosmith poster will be coming down and will be replaced by one for the Muppets. The bulbs lighting the poster may change, but not the poster itself. The rock around the shop may get a new name change. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the toilet signs will be changed. These are ones I wouldn't say fought over, but I did engage people because you're only supposed to do signs a certain way, and I didn't do it. Anyway, hopefully Kermit will show up. Not this Kermit, not the puppeted version. We'll save him for the pre-show inside of Studio C that we'll get to in a moment. At a recent event, the Disney Imagineers rolled out some of their ideas and how they were going to do them. And they really did do a good job bringing out the Muppeteers themselves. Although seeing men sliding around on carts is still a little bit disturbing. But I understand the art behind the science and the magic. If there was ever a set of characters that were meant to be animated, it's got to be the Muppets. They're simple, they're squishy, you can stuff a lot of electronics into them, it's all good. And we'll be seeing them very shortly there in Studio C, where they'll be replacing Aerosmith. Now at the time, that was state-of-the-art as far as a projection system. It was high def. Now it'll be replaced by something else, and probably not projected. Probably an LED, I would think, because, well, it's state-of-the-art today. Plus the fact it'll ease up a lot of the storage area back behind the screen. The Muppets have been part of the Disney MGM studios from the very earliest days of that third gate. First, they were Here Comes the Muppets, a little show that was there successfully running as a placeholder until the Muppet Vision Muppet Studios could be completed. That was establishing the Muppets as a physical presence in a theme park for the first time, becoming their own mini-land. It opened with one attraction, character greetings, dining, retail. There was going to be more. There was a plan. There were designs for what was never going to be the Muppet movie ride. This was going to be, well, as they said, the idea behind what the Muppets think the way a movie is made. Obviously, it was not going to be that way, but there are so many gags, so many wonderful things that were done, and preparations were made. Just behind this wall, the wall that's now gone, this is where it was going to be. The Muppets always found homes elsewhere, though. There in Florida, they moved over to outside the Hall of Presidents in Liberty Square. They moved on to the Skyliner that sailed between Epcot and MGM, or now Hollywood Studios. And of course, they put their eyes on RocknRoller Coaster, currently starring Aerosmith, but soon to star another band. Another band because Aerosmith's time has come and gone. When the time came to start design work on RocknRoller Coaster, I paid a visit to the Guitar Center in Los Angeles, where whipping out my WDI credit card, I bought not one, but two red Stratocasters. Both of these I drove back to Glendale, California, where I instructed to have one of the necks of one of the guitars broken off because it had to be put on the model. And we're going to build this thing full size.
If we need evidence as far as the amount of change we're going to get, we need to look no further than the G-Force Record Plaza. Out in front, well, the guitar is going to stay because it needs to. It's just too big. I remember going down to Tampa to the vendor that created the guitar and spent a lot of time there. It was built out of, well, at the time it was called open bead cell foam. It's a white. It's a kind of packing material when you buy a refrigerator or other appliance. It wraps your device, the thing you just bought. But it has its limitations. You have to use, well, usually a really blunt instrument in order to carve it, maybe a hot wire if you're lucky and have one. Also, you have to clear it off and you have to clean the space. To make it smooth, use a compound, and it comes in barrels. And in the case of the guitar, many, many barrels sacrificed their lives to fill the open voids in that guitar. Once it was done, it did provide a buck or a tool to create the fiberglass panels that were then painted and attached to the steel armature that was installed there in the Disney MGM Studios, as its name was back then. Once the fiberglass guitar was created, it was put into sections and put on a truck, sent up the highway to the Disney MGM Studios, where it was attached to the armature steel. They had to get into it because, well, you got to get into it because you have a lot of wiring inside that guitar. There are lights inside. And in order to maintain and get to those lights, there had to be a hatch. So next time, before you enter RocknRoller Coaster, look to your left and down because you'll see a hatch there. And that's how the electricians get into that guitar to maintain it.
The stainless steel G-Force record album built in Kansas City only requires some polish. The props, the records, the equipment probably will be changed out for some Muppety stuff. And likely Steven Tyler's old scarves will go away. Because I don't think Dr. Teeth or the Electric Mayhem band, well, they don't rock that way. But what will happen is the space essentially will be the same. It's a recording studio. Bands use it. And they all have technicians and helpers, like the Penguins. They got a new gig. They have a good agent. I really would like to know who they have under contract to help them out because when they were evicted from Muppet Vision, things didn't look so good. But now they're moving into Studio C, as is the Electric Mayhem. And remember their bus? It's got to find a way to be placed there on Sunset Avenue, the Sunset Alley, because it just makes too much sense not to have it there. And the launch tunnel, which was inspired by the Pasadena Freeway Tunnel, with the date 1952, which was the date WDI was founded, will stay. The ride system built and designed by Vekoma will remain. It has a very fast launch. It has good capacity. You go 0 to over 50 miles an hour very, very quickly, and you go 0G, as in you go weightless. 3 inversions, which deliver you into the gravity building. There, under ultraviolet light, are a number of freeway signs. And again, these may or may not stay, or they kind of are generic enough to work with the Muppets, but wouldn't surprise me if some of them change. The ride vehicle could get a repaint. We have a whole variety of options, and we have the logo.
Over my time at Disney Imagineering, I worked on a lot of projects, but there's a point where you have to give up the project that you've been spending years on. The moment for me at RocknRoller Coaster came when I was in a conversation there in the plaza. I had my back to the gate, and suddenly I felt a wave of heat because they had dropped the rope to allow the first guest to come into Plaza to ride the coaster. It was like opening an oven door. And it's dawned on me then that it really was something that I had to let go of. But it's still gratifying because now for several decades, RocknRoller Coaster has been a signature coaster or even a signature ride at Disney Studios and all of Disney World. It's still something that's on the gotta go ride this list for any guest. So I look at the change from Aerosmith to the Muppets as something that's a validation for the basic idea, which is at the time that I was thinking about it and designing it, I believe then, as I do now, that Disney World needed a high thrill, high speed, inverting coaster. It turned out I was right. And it really doesn't matter who showcases the ride, whether it's Aerosmith or Dr. Teeth. The fact is that Aerosmith opened the ride, Dr. Teeth and the Muppets will continue the ride, and the ride, RocknRoller Coaster, will endure.
It endures for the reason, well, the obvious reason is that it delivered on a promise. RocknRoller Coaster was the first big boy coaster there in Disney World, and it competed. It put Disney in the same leagues as what other companies had, like Six Flags and Universal. I spent years working on RocknRoller Coaster as creative director, riding in the front car on the first launch, supervising all of the props, the media, the work that was done in the retail shop, picking the graphics, spending time with Aerosmith, watching them sign this poster, which hangs in the exit. It's real. It was meant to be real. It was supposed to be kind of the non-Disney version of what a Disney ride is. It opened. I wasn't sure it'd be successful, but it was. I was on a joyride with RocknRoller Coaster, working with the WDI project team and, of course, Aerosmith themselves. Developing the logo, it had a pure language. So even though the Muppets' vision is closed, the Muppets haven't left the studio. They've been there since almost the opening day. And now they're going to find a brand new home. Still at G-Force Records, which is going to get a little bit of love and a brand new act. And I take a lot of pleasure in that. The idea has endured, and I never wanted anything more than that.
That's all the Muppet news for now. There'll be more in the future, I'm sure, because Disney's very active and I release new episodes every single week. In the meanwhile, just like these good folk, please consider subscribing to my channel. Their support ensures that my work here continues. Otherwise, for you, your homework assignment is subscribing, hitting the bell notification button, liking, sharing, and joining me next week for another Disney journey. Until then, it's goodbye from Lost Canyon.